Welcome viewers, this is your anchor Kekrizanya Sono. You're now watching Hornbill TV. Let's talk about medicines in India. Medicines save life, but when the same medicine is fake, spurious or contaminated with toxic substances, it can turn treatment into a life-threatening risk. India has a regulatory system to monitor drug quality and enforcement actions are being taken. But recent cases have raised a critical question. If a suspected drug is manufactured in one state, stored in another, passes through multiple hands and finally reaches a pharmacy before reaching or being consumed by a patient, is action against just a factory enough? From recent central action in Bihar to interstate networks uncovered in Uttar Pradesh and Delhi, the emerging picture suggests that the risk is not limited to manufacturing units alone, but extends across the entire supply chain. And now the question is, should surveillance be expanded to pharmacies, wholesalers, stockists and distributors at the state level? Well, the illegal drug trade is no longer just about hidden factories. Because on August 1, 2026, the central government reported action under Operation Vajra against an interstate counterfeit or spurious medicine network in Bihar. According to the Central Bureau of Narcotics, authorities identified 8 illegal godowns and 1 illicit manufacturing facility in the Gaya and Masauri areas of Patna district. Large quantities of tablets, bottles and suspected counterfeit pharmaceutical preparations were seized. Officials said they recovered stock included suspected spurious versions of medicines such as Clavum 625, very common in every household, Pan 40, Betadine ointment and Azitrol. This action comes at a time when Delhi police had already investigated an interstate spurious medicine racket linked to Uttar Pradesh. In April 2026, Delhi police busted a network allegedly involving around 2 crore rupees worth of spurious life-saving medicines, along with fake GST invoicing and the use of shell companies. Now, these are life-saving medicines with fake GST invoice. Imagine the gravity of the situation. The pattern emerging across cases is clear. Manufacturing, storage, billing, distribution and finally retail. But an important distinction must be made here. Not every substandard medicine is a fake medicine. Drug regulation classifies medicines into categories such as not of standard quality, called NSQ, spurious adulterated and misbranded drugs. Therefore, before labeling any medicine as fake or counterfeit, it is essential to rely on the official classification established during regulatory investigation. This is why each case must be reported strictly according to verified findings. Looking at the government data, from 2025 to 2026, 1,41,322 drug samples tested, 3,012 not of standard quality NSQ, 283 came under spurious or adulterated, 779 prosecution cases. Now, these figures were shared by the central government in the parliament. In 2024 to 2025, a total of 1,16,323 samples were tested, of which 3,104 were NSQ and 245 were spurious or adulterated. So, is the government not acting? Well, so far, the CDSCO and state drug controllers have systems for inspections, sampling, lab testing and enforcement. CDSCO also issues regular NSQ and spurious drug alerts, informing stakeholders about suspected batches found in the market. Its surveillance system includes sampling from sales and distribution points, and identified NSQ batches are publicly notified through official alerts. But this is where the most important question begins. The supply chain, manufacturing, stockist, wholesaler, distributor, pharmacy, patient, and then if a suspected drug enters any point in this chain, targeting only the manufacturing unit may not be enough. The key question becomes, who purchased it? From whom was it purchased? whose invoice was used, what was the batch number, which distributor forwarded it, which pharmacy received it, and most importantly, is full traceability of the batch available. So why do such medicines reach the market? Well, heavy discounts are one of the main causes. The AIOCD claimed in 2025 that counterfeit medicines in the retail market had increased by nearly 50%. However, this is a trade body estimate, not a government national survey. So the association cited heavy discounts, weak vigilance and supply chain vulnerabilities also contributing factors. Talking about supply chain vulnerability, where the more intermediaries involved, the more critical it becomes to ensure supplier verification, invoice verification, and batch traceability. Then comes illegal or unauthorized channels, where unregulated sales and weak verification systems can create additional enforcement challenges. However, it is important to note that not every online pharmacy or discounted medicine can be classified as counterfeit. The risk of counterfeit or contaminated medicine is not just financial, it can be fatal. These incidents do not all belong to a single category of counterfeit medicine deaths. Some involve contaminated medicines, others involve spurious or counterfeit drugs, and in several cases, investigations are still ongoing or classified differently. Looking at the death toll, the reported child deaths in India. In 2019, 12 children linked to contaminated cough syrup in Jammu and Kashmir. The Gambia in 2022, where 70 children deaths linked to Indian-made pediatric cough syrups containing toxic diethylene glycol. Then we have the Uzbekistan in the year 2022 to 2023, where 68 children's death linked to Doc 1 Max cough syrup manufactured by Marion Biotech, India. Then comes Cameroon. From 2022 to 2023, at least 10 children reported deaths linked to contaminated Indian-made cough syrups. Coming to India, Madhya Pradesh in the year 2025, where 24 children died in Chhindwara linked to cold reef cough syrup, which was found to contain dangerously high levels of diethylene glycol. It would be incorrect to combine these cases and claim that over 160 deaths in India were caused by fake medicines, because international cases have raised a serious public health warning. According to Reuters, more than 140 children died in Gambia, Uzbekistan, and Cameroon since 2022 in cases linked to contaminated Indian-made cough syrups. In 2025, the cold reef tragedy in India added 24 more child deaths. The cold reef case is particularly significant because it was not just about counterfeit medicine, it was also a case of manufacturing and quality control failure. According to WHO, the affected syrups contain diethylene glycol at levels nearly 500 times above permissible limits. And then this brings us to the big question. So the question is no longer whether is the government acting. The question is enforcement going beyond manufacturing units to entire supply chain? Is information sharing between state drug control departments sufficient? Does information about suspicious manufacturers or distributors reach pharmacies and wholesalers in other states quickly? Another one is, are high-risk supply routes being actively monitored? And once a suspicious batch enters the market, can the entire chain from manufacturer to final pharmacy be traced and quarantined? This is where the role of the state governments become critical. Not just random inspections, risk-based inspections. Not just factories, stockists and distributors as well. Not just license, purchase and sales records too. Not just lab reports, but full market traceability of each batch. The regulatory framework already exists, including CDSCO alerts and surveillance systems, with NSQ and spurious drug listing updated regularly. What is now needed is connected enforcement chain from factory to pharmacy. This leads to a key policy question. Should there be a blanket inspection of all pharmacies? Practically, inspecting every outlet at once may not be feasible. However, a risk-based statewide pharmacy surveillance system targeting high-risk medicines, suspicious suppliers, unusual discounts, complaint history, and questionable invoices may be more effective approach. In other words, not equal action on every pharmacy but equal accountability across every supply chain is the need of the hour. The biggest challenge in counterfeit medicine control is not just production. The real danger begins when a drug enters the legitimate supply chain and reaches the patient. Recent interstate cases, government testing data, and past fatal contamination incidents all point to one question: should drug monitoring stop at the factory gate, or should the entire chain from manufacturer to distributor, wholesaler, and the pharmacy be made fully accountable? Because when a patient buys medicine, they are not just buying a strip. They are buying trust that the medicine prescribed is the medicine they receive, and protecting that is not just the responsibility of pharmaceutical companies, it is the responsibility of the entire drug regulatory system. And with that, we come to the end of this topic. Stay informed and stay updated, and keep watching Hornbill TV.